And president of Steve's Leaves Inc. Welcome everybody to my greenhouses that are still here after record cold the last week. We survived and everything's going well. We were very fortunate, partly through luck and partly through some hard work to keep things going. Anyway, I was just going to give I know you're here to hear about hybridizing begonias, but I was asked to give a company history, so I'll be brief on that. But so here are some things to note. And today, February 20th, marks 2 milestones. I'll get to that in a little bit. But anyway, starting out in 1971, I was 13. Terrariums were all the rage. I got addicted to plants, starting with terrariums. Then started growing the plants outside the terrariums. Started having plant sales in my front yard. And by the time that I was 18, I decided to go ahead and make it a business. And so I started as a business and put up a 10 by 20 backyard greenhouse. A few years later, I put up a 30 by 42 greenhouse, took up pretty much the whole backyard with that. Then sometime, I think I was in my early to mid 20s, somewhere in the early 80s, I went to a begonia show in Dallas and was very impressed with the begonias, very excited, but I got really excited when I found a really well-grown begonia midnight sun. And it was like, okay, I've got to contact these people. That did it. So I found out they did the show to just kind of put feelers out to see if there was interest in starting a branch, a Dallas branch. So I joined, became a charter member, as well as Don Miller, who will be speaking, is also a charter member. And then, so that was early 80s, jump ahead. So for 7 years, I rented some greenhouse space, but jump ahead to the first milestone is 30 years ago today. I bought 4 acres of land in Louisville, Texas, right in the middle of a residential area, and built some greenhouses there. I was already renting greenhouses, but they have some larger greenhouses, commercial greenhouses of my own. And then 10 years ago, 2011, late in the year, Don Miller started working here. Many of you already know Don, but Don's a well-known begonia expert. He hates it when I say that, but that's how I look at him. He spent 37 years working at a local retail nursery. And when I found out that he was available, I jumped on the chance to have him join my team. So, so there are 2 things that Don, there are lots of things Don did, but 2 things of note. One is he started hybridizing right away. I'd never really done that. It wasn't something that was a requirement, but I knew that he would be interested in that. The other thing was I had been wanting a website for a long time. So after 10 plus years of complaining that I didn't have a website, my oldest son, David, thank you, David, created a website for me because he got tired of hearing me say I wanted one. So that was 2000 and I guess late 2011, 2012. Actually, the second milestone, also February 20th, but it was 2012, 9 years ago today, was our first online sale. Before that, I was primarily, and even during that time, I was primarily selling wholesale to local nurseries. So online was just kind of another sales channel to open up. Also, I'll mention, it's been quite a roller coaster ride. I've had in the late 90s, some really hard times to keep the business going. It was very difficult, it was close to bankruptcy. I've had to reinvent the business over and over throughout the years to kind of shift positions and weather all these different things that happened around me in the market. So then let's jump ahead to 2017. Darren Heppel joined the company. I hired him away from a customer to be my online sales manager. Sales were starting to pick up, and so he began working as the operations manager, I should say. He continued the begonia hybridizing, as you'll see in a few minutes, and But then also the online sales really took off, and more of our sales were online, and less of it were wholesale, local wholesale. Then in December of last year, in 2020, Ryan, who was Darren's assistant, took over as operations manager. And you're going to meet Ryan as well. And Ryan has also continued the hybridization. That's kind of a fun thing to do, and has its challenges, but it has its very much has its rewards. So that's kind of the company history in a nutshell, and how I got into plants and begonias. Now I'm turning it over to Don, I believe, right? Right. All right. And by the way, I should mention, I'll hear about it if I don't, that the website is stevesleaves.com. Okay.
Hello, everybody. I'd like to talk today about some of my hybrids here at Steve's Leaves. And one of the first objectives of hybridizing, I always had an interest in miniature begonias. And so I thought I wanted to hybridize more miniature rhizomatous begonias. And so what I've done is I took Angel Glow right here, which is a Australian hybrid by Ross Balwell, which has lots of bright colors in it. It changes colors. And I hybridized it with a little miniature species. This one is Bowerii variety Negra Marga. And with that cross, I selected 3 seedlings and named those 3 seedlings. And they are, this one is Kevin White Cotton, right here. Small leaf, spiral, dark foliage. The other one is more of the yellows and gold colors of Angel Glow. And this is Autumn Twist, another small leafed spiral. And then the third one was Copper Sunset, which is this one right here, which is another small leaf rhizomatous hybrid. Now, when I selected these 3 seedlings to be named, I was really looking for something that was smaller, a smaller leaf. As you look at these leaves, of course, these are stock plants, so the leaves are growing in a greenhouse, so the leaves are larger what they might be growing in your house. But I was looking for something smaller. So I took one seedling that was not named and crossed it back with Bowerii Negra Marga. And with that cross, I got some plants that had smaller leaves, more of the size of Bowerii. And we selected 2 of those. This one here, which has the colors of Angel Glow, which is Dancing Vera. And the other miniature is Mini Melbourne, which is a darker seedling. And in front of these large stock plants, you can see the smaller plants in smaller pots. Now the Dancing Vera, the foliage varies color. Sometimes it's light green, sometimes it's bronzy color. It varies with the season, with the temperature, light, and a lot of different variables. Also, I was hybridizing several other begonias. Always had an interest in Rex begonias. And with Rex begonias, it's always very interesting to see what kind of colors you get. There's lots of bright colors in Rex begonias. When you cross one with another, you'll get lots of bright colors. This right here, these are two seedlings in a cross with fireworks. And when you get these seedlings, you look at them, you look at how they grow, what are the distinguishing characteristics of them, and what makes them unique. You want to find a new hybrid that is unique and is different from what's already out there. This one right here is unnamed, and it has a real nice purplish color to the leaves. And we will be introducing that very soon. Now this one here, this is another seedling in that group, which has a very beautiful leaf, but it has a very poor growth habit. As you can see, it grows tall and leggy, sort of drops its bottom leaves, and just doesn't make a nice full plant. So even though it's got a beautiful leaf, this is one we're gonna destroy. So that's what you have to do. You have to look at your little children and see which ones are the most promising, and you get rid of the ones that aren't. Another cross I did was, let's see, this one right here. This was a unidentified species, U489. U489. And here at the greenhouse, Darren and I call this the tofu of begonia hybridizing, because you can take it, hybridize it with other plants, and you get that really strong silver color, but it's not always silver. It may have other colors, but that strong pattern, and it just makes good hybrids. A couple of the hybrids from U489 and another Rex hybrid, one called Dutch Sunrise. This is the first hybrid we introduced. This is Starry Nights. And it also won Best New Hybrid at the Southwest Region Begonia Show in, I believe it was in San Antonio. Another seedling from that cross is this one here, which is Winter Twilight. What I like about it is that beautiful, very subtle pink sheen to the leaves. And so that's another one we selected out of that cross. The next cross, another cross, was using species Seismori, species from Vietnam. And this was hybridized with U489. And we've selected two hybrids from that cross. One is Old Blue, one up here. And Old Blue has a bluish gray sheen to it. It has the long hairs of Seismori. Very hardy, easy to grow, rhizomatous hybrid. Second one I selected from that cross is Silver Skies, this one back here. Large leaves, these have large leaves like Sizemore and its other parent, U0489. And those are some of the hybrids that we've selected from those crosses. I'm going to show you one more hybrid, and that is this one right here. And right here you can see the colors real nice. And this is Steve's Leaves, Mother of Pearl. And it is a hybrid from Starry Nights and another Rex begonia, which is called Libra. And that's in the constellation series of Rex begonias. And it's really selected for its large area that has that iridescent sort of mother of pearl shine to it. And that is a few of our hybrids here at Steve's Leaves. And now I'm going to turn you over to Darren Heppel, which has done a lot of hybridizing. And he will talk to you about his hybrids, how he selected them, and what he has done with begonia hybridizing.
Hey everybody, I'm Darren Heppel. So we're here to talk about a few of the begonias that I actually created while I was here at Steve's Leaves. We're going to start off with this cane. Out of this cross, there were actually three, probably four seedlings that we actually selected. This is one that I named after my mother, my grandmother. This is Steve's Leaves, Margaret Heppel. Main reason I named it after her is it puts on these huge clusters of hot pink flowers, and that's her favorite color, so it had to go for her. The cross on this though is Flamingo Queen crossed with Libercii. And sorry about this Libercii. When you work in a greenhouse where things are being propagated all the time, they look like they're being propagated all the time. So they get cut on a lot. But anyway, so my main focus here was I actually wanted a nice spotted begonia with a smaller leaf. And of course, I love this pterodactyl looking leaf shape on this. So I wanted to bring that into it too. And the exact opposite happened on this cross. Everything went huge. And I have no idea why, where all this went in. Of course, Libercii has huge flowers on it anyway. And so that's where these big clusters of flowers, and these are small compared to the way they get. Some of them are just, I mean, the flowers are the size of silver dollars. So we got Margaret Heppel out of that one. We got the one that Don Miller kept admiring it over and over again. And it's mainly, again, it's a plant for the flowers. It just puts on these huge clusters and it constantly blooming. I mean, even right now it's blooming. And we still don't even know really what causes them to go from pink to white. We don't know if it's temperature or sun or what, but sometimes they'll be white. I have some home in my greenhouse right now that came out and they're all pink. So anyway, so they usually start out white and then age to a pink color, as you can see there. But for some reason, sometimes they come out solid pink, sometimes they come out all white. But it's great for these huge clusters of flowers. And then, unfortunately, again, being in a place where we cut on plants, this is Titan. And Titan was probably the first one that I selected just mainly because it has up to 19-inch length leaves on it when it's grown as a specimen plant and not chopped on. Same way with Margaret Heppel. The leaves on this one actually get a little bit bigger than Titans, but didn't find that out until after the names had been done. But anyway, those were the three that we selected out of there. Of course, when you're hybridizing begonias, there's thousands of babies that are being produced. Having the room to grow all of those plants out and make selections, you have to start culling from an early age. And you can do that just by looking at the vigor of the plant. So if you've got a bunch that are struggling and they're little and they're puny and all that other stuff, select your bigger seedlings that are very robust and go with those, especially if you're very limited on space in your greenhouse or wherever you're growing, and just start culling them immediately that way and going for the more robust plants. But so here's one of the seedlings that didn't make the cut. It looks just like its dad, Labersii, pretty much, but in a much larger form. It even starts off with the little spots on the leaves like Labersii does when it's young, and then they just fade away and it becomes a nice that deep green. It's very leggy. It gets very tall. It's long internodes between the leaves. It's a neat plant. It's just I don't think it would really make the cut as far as a good hybrid to be put in production for resale. Then there's a couple of other ones over there. There's one that we greenhouse named White Star, which puts on pure white flowers constantly. It's a little leggy too. That's going to be up to them to decide whether or not they want to put that one into production. And then there's another one over there that's hot pink flowers as well. But I think between something like this, you've got to narrow it down and go, okay, these are the best ones, because you could, name 1,000 of them and put them out there. But the best thing here is just to get the best of the best and put it out there. Don was saying earlier about you always want to make sure that the plant is something new and unusual. One other thing that you can use too in that is that you want the plant, it can be kind of the same as the parents, but maybe a better representation of the parent. Is it more vigorous? Is it to have a better growth habit or something like that? So it may look close to something that's already there, like one of the parents, but if it's more outstanding than that parent, that would actually be another good reason to keep a plant. Even maybe not even perhaps to release, but maybe as a bridge plant. A bridge plant is something that you may not like as a plant in particular, but it has a whole lot of great characteristics. Maybe it doesn't have really good color, or it's got great leaf shape, and it's got great stature, and it grows really well, but there's one thing wrong with it. And you can take that plant and then pair it up with a plant that doesn't have some of those good features and add that color into it or whatever's missing from this one, and put those two together, and then you'll start seeing some really neat results there. We can move on to the next plant. So this is Steve's Leaves Midnight Sky. This was a really surprise. This was a very poor germinating seed pod. I think there were only 5 or 6 seed that came up, period. And out of those, only 2 of them came to adulthood. This was one of them. So might be good to go back and redo this cross. It was actually Christmas Curl and Catherine. Catherine was the pod parent, and Christmas Curl was the pollen parent on this one. In the summertime, it can get some silver on it, and it'll break the black and go over sometimes to a red color like here. But for the most part, in the cooler, the spring, the fall, the winter, it's going to be solid black. The leaves start off with little white stars, and they tend to kind of fade away to that solid midnight sky look. So But yeah, this was a really neat cross. Wasn't really what I was expecting. I didn't expect to get something so dark from these two plants, but it was a really great surprise. The next one we're going to move over here to is Steve's Leaves Yellow Jacket. This is another one of those. Steve's always was always saying, do something weird, do something strange. So I would throw pollen on some things that, it's like, okay, we'll see what this does. This is actually a xanthina cross. So it's, I believe it's, it's a plant that we no longer have in the greenhouse, unfortunately. It was an on-tune hybrid that he had given us that we called Red Silver. And it was crossed with xanthina. Of course, xanthina has the yellow flowers, and that's exactly what I was hoping for. I don't know if you've ever grown xanthina, but it's not the most friendly plant to grow. So this has actually changed. You still get the xanthina yellow, the kind of the xanthina look to it, but it's a much easier plant to grow than xanthina itself. There are two other siblings to this plant. What are they? Hornet Bumblebee. And Bumblebee. And you should probably see those at some point being released. They all have yellow flowers as well. Every one of them looks completely different in the leaf pattern though. So this one's got a lot more coloration with with white spotting. The other one is almost all red. And then one of them is very white and green, but with yellow flowers. And again, this is winter time. The flowers on this thing, it blooms constantly. The ovaries on the back are bright cherry red and on the wings. And then the flowers are yellow and a little bit of that red shows through, giving you a nice orange color sometimes. But the flowers are usually like 3 times the size of what we're seeing here, and large clusters. This next one usually looks a lot better than this. This is Paradox, and Steve's Leaves Paradox. This is you're going to be kind of surprised at the cross here. Of course, the one of the parents is, we'll go back to U489 right over here that Don and I called Tofu, because you can kind of cross anything to it and it'll take on the characteristics of that other plant. So if you cross a red plant onto it, you'll get these nice red seedlings, but with that silver undertone to it. But the other parent to this was what did I tell y'all? Fireworks. So it looks absolutely nothing like fireworks. Yeah, I don't even know if possibly something happened in the wind that day, and I do bag all of my seed or all of my crosses and put tags on them so that I know what I've done. But that still doesn't stop wind from blowing around in here and something else possibly pollinated it. So you can't always be 100% sure. But that's the cross on this one. It's from the get-go, very vigorous grower. Starts off nice silver color, and then the pink tends to grow in as it gets a little older. Also, it changes a lot with the weather. The warmer it is, the more silver it is with the dark marking in the center, and the cooler it gets, the more pink you'll see. So the next one going on here is Phantom, and you can see right here, this plant still looks fantastic. Coming out of the summer months, it's one of those plants that really holds up color-wise in the heat. I don't think we've had any issues with it in the heat at all, dropping that red color. I remember I'd get a lot of emails here when I worked at Steve's with people wanting to know why their red begonia was silver. So always had to let them know when it was as warm as it is, that tends to happen. But this is again another cross using Begonia U489 as a parent, and it's And then its other parent was Christmas Curl, which is odd because you kind of lose that all that silver and green from it, and you get that nice red leaf. It starts out very black in the center and the markings. That black kind of fades, as you can see, blends all the way into the red, giving it a really neat look to it. Almost doesn't look real. Again, this cross, there were several that came out of this cross that looked totally different. Another one that you're going to see right here is Cosmic Candy. Same cross, different outcome. This plant has been cut on. I think they've done a lot of propagating. But what I was really loved about this plant was the rays that come off the edge of the leaves. Actually, you'll see some here in a minute. I crossed this back to itself. So this would be the F1. You do an F2, cross the plant back to itself. That actually then doubles up some chromosomes. You get some really neat stuff. So if you're looking for something the first go around and you cross two plants and you don't see all of it that you want, cross it back to itself, and then you'll get something really neat. Kind of like what we're looking at here. This is Begonia Baltic Amber, and it's been chopped on here. This plant goes from green in the springtime and works its way all the way up to these beautiful golds and reds and everything. This plant is actually Angel Glow crossed with Jive, and you can kind of see the jive here in the edge of it. But so then I did something different, and I crossed it back to itself. And when I did, this was the outcome. This one's kind of not the. It was really weird when it. The original seedling is very compact and actually looked like a cupcake. It just stayed in one pot and constantly spiraled around on itself and just kept producing these highly ruffled leaves. Then when I propagated the leaves off of it, it mutated back over and kind of lost that super ruffle, but stayed very compact. And I mean, you can keep this thing in a 4-inch pot for ever if you know, it just keeps spiraling around and growing very short. This one has not been released yet, as with a lot of these eyelash types. They're very slow to propagate, and so it takes a while to actually get them going, getting up a good crop of them, and introducing them. One of the things I will mention is that from the time that you put pollen on a flower to the time that you bring a plant into production is probably anywhere from 3 to 4 years. The first year is just struggling seedlings and repotting them and moving them and culling them and going from deciding which ones you're getting rid of and making your selections. Then you need to grow them out and see what they're going to actually be like through an entire couple of seasons. You need to know how they're going to behave in the heat and in the cold, and if they're color fast, if they're lanky, are they good growers? So there's just all these things you need to keep in mind when you are propagating and growing plants and hybridizing, just to make sure that you are giving the world something that is different and better than what was there before. So this is all we have on this table. We're going to move down to another aisle over here right quick, where we have some really unusual things going on. First, I wanted to bring in these right here. This is the cross back of Cosmic Candy cross back to itself. And I've kept these because of the huge rays that are growing out on them. Steve and the guys here will need to actually watch these, check them out. I do remember this one doesn't have a really great color, but the rays on it are just crazy. This is another one from that same crossing back onto itself. It's kind of brown and green, but it's I kind of like it. And then this is another one right here. And then this weird little thing here is a cross. And you can get down in there and show them that's what it usually looks like. This is actually a cross that I did that's Bonita Chiba crossed by, I believe the one that it is, it's one of the children of, or one of the siblings of Cosmic Candy. So Bonita Chiba, if y'all aren't familiar, is palmate leaf, really cool. Always wondering, what am I going to get if I do these palmates to these Rexes? And they do start to get a little palmate. You can see little breaks in the leaf there. Gives you some really neat, interesting. This is another one from the same cross. As you can see, they get really different. And then if you'll move down here, so these are all seedlings right here. Everything that's on these that he's going to pan over here are all the same cross. And these are a little more predictable. They're kind of, you can see that they all are the same but different. This is a cross between Milana Bulata and Ignita. And so you can kind of predict more since you're dealing with two species. You don't have a whole bunch of lost genes in there that you don't know if you're unlocking or not. None of these have bloomed yet, so we have no idea whether or not the flower color is going to be orange, but we definitely hope so. As you can see, there's not really a whole lot of the beulah on there are not showing up at all. There's some pimpling or I guess seersuckering to the leaves, some of them more than others. You can see this one's very bumpy, where others are extremely flat. But they all pretty much have the same pattern. It's just varying degrees of the same pattern. Now, where this will get interesting is whenever these start to bloom, if Ryan will cross one of these back to itself or to a sibling that has really great color or good plant habit, then you're going to end up getting the really cool beulated leaves with some nice different colors and stuff. So I think that will be very interesting to watch. Another one, which is right next to it, is another Milana Bulata hybrid. And so you can kind of see the Milana Bulata here showing up. This one's actually is starting to bloom already. So got a lot of the beulahs showing, each one with a little hair. The other cross on this one, or the other parent on this, is Masoniana Red. So it's this plant right here. So you've already got a species that is, showing the beulah. So it was very easy for it to bring it out in the seedlings, just in a much more vigorous, a lot more. You can actually, in this one, I can see, I don't know if y'all can see on the camera, you can see the iron cross pattern showing up in the seedling. And now this next cross, which it's actually starting to bloom already. And when I left a couple of months ago, they all still looked like this, had just not very interesting leaf patterns on them at all. but this is another Milana Bulata cross. So this is Milana Bulata crossed with Thamii. Yeah, Thamii. And so you got very palmate leaf going on here. So you can kind of see where it's going, but this is one that really needs to be crossed back to itself, because then, can y'all imagine having these big palmate leaves that are just covered in red, or in those beulah, like that one right there. You really need. And I think that's all that I've got over here. That's another seedling, but I'm not sure what it is. So I think we're going to turn everything over now to Ryan. He's actually, while I was here, we started doing some hybridizing, and he's been doing great. He's got some really cool things coming up for you. So here's Ryan.
Hey, everybody. Let's walk to the back of the greenhouse. And kind of got my stuff set aside. All right. So I only have two crosses that have taken so far. They're both pretty interesting. I've been very lucky. So I mean, I haven't done a ton of crosses that haven't taken. We probably have about 10 that didn't take, and these two that did. So had pretty good luck so far. As Darren said, it could be the very good teachers that I've had, which I've been very fortunate. I mean, when you stumble upon a job like this, when you're given such an opportunity and you have the stock plants that you do, it makes it a lot easier. When I was selecting, the main thing that I was going for here was extremely dark foliage with a contrasting bright flower. The good thing is the payoff on that could be huge. Unfortunately, what you don't think about is that it takes them forever to bloom. So we've been playing the waiting game. This one cross is about a year, and we just started getting flowers about a month ago. The cane that I have over here is about 8 months old, and we're still not seeing any flowers. So when you're going for foliage, you can kind of see that foliage a little bit earlier. When you're going for flowers, it's kind of playing the waiting game. I think the next round of crosses that I do will be for foliage and not for flowers. So the first cross that I'm going to show you here is a cross between an unreleased hybrid called Micro Mo crossed with YTO, Begonia YTO, which stands for Yellow Thelma O'Reilly. Clearly, I was going for a very dark, almost black foliage with a bright yellow flower. You can see here is the regular Thelma O'Reilly. It has white flowers. The white flowers on Thelma O'Reilly are quite a bit bigger than what you see on YTO, but they are white, and YTO has a yellow flower. It's a mutation off of Thelma O'Reilly. So I didn't have many that came up here. We only had 6 seeds that came up. But luckily, out of 2 of them are not blooming yet. One of them looks very similar to, without the spiral, to the YTO or Thelma O'Reilly, but we do have the white flowers. So this is probably something that's not going to be selected. We definitely don't have any names on any of this stuff yet. We're still in the early stages. But I did have 3 of them that have yellow flowers. I apologize, some of this stuff has fallen off. 2 of them are bright yellow flowers, and one's more of a cream color. But it did, you know, we were concerned that it wasn't going to come out like we thought, and fingers crossed, they did come out yellow. They're not very big yellow flowers, but the contrast is exactly what I was going for. And on this, I would like to show, we actually have grandparents here of one of these guys. So this is Maurice, which is the grandparent of these seedlings, crossed with Boweri variety Nigra Marga. That's how you come up with micro mow. So you can see these two. These are Don Miller hybrids, other than the species, but this is a Don Miller hybrid here to come up with this. So most of the stuff that we've seen you is, or shown you today, has just been the parents, but these are actually the grandparents of these begonias here. Another one that I want to show you is, this is another one that I was going for with extremely dark foliage, which the darkest foliage that I had in a cane begonia was Begonia Elsa. It's not black, but when it's adult, it does look very, very dark. Has a nice dark reverse. And we crossed that with Begonia lunaris. It's a species. And again, we are waiting on to see if we have the flower color. But here's all of our hybrids. We haven't culled any of this stuff. This is every one of the seedlings that we have. As you can tell, we've got some that are looking pretty dark without spots. We have some that came out looking very similar to lunaris with that plain green leaf. Some of these obviously aren't gonna, a lot of these aren't gonna make the cut, but if we do get some that are a really dark foliage, these orange flowers is what I'm going for. So I think there's some that have potential in here. We've been watching them. We're still waiting on flowers. Again, next time, probably going on foliage and not for flower color, just because the waiting game. The next, I do have quite a few seeds we're waiting on to germinate. The next round of stuff, basically I've been going on a theme. The next round of stuff is going to be pink foliage canes. Most of the crosses that I've done have all had some kind of pink color in them. So dark foliage, contrasting light flower. And the next group of stuff is going to have pink foliage of some kind and a cane. Most of the crosses that I have all had that quality to them. And I guess that's it. We're going to turn it over to, unless Steve had a few more things to say, and then we're going to turn it over to questions.
Before we get to the questions, I wanted to thank everyone for watching, to apologize that we're in the flight path of DFW Airport. So I hope the airplanes didn't drown any of the speakers out. And also I wanted to mention two other things. One is we're known for begonias, but we're also known for aeroids and hoyas. You can see there's some Bullmark's fantasies. Here's a small batch of those. And we are also known for our Monstera albos. They're variegated Monsteras, which we have a lot of stock mates. I don't know if you can pick any of those up, but anyway. And I also wanted to mention that I'm very happy to help support the American Begonia Society and its efforts. Begonias have had a lot to do with my interest in plants, and I like being able to give back and advertise with them and donate gift cards when needed and all that. So thanks again. And now I guess we'll go to the questions.
Okay, everyone, just give Jorge a minute to organize all the questions. And what we're going to do is I'm going to announce the winner of the $100 Steve's Leaves gift card that was graciously donated by Steve's Leaves. So the winner of the gift card is Wendy Corby. Congratulations, Wendy, on winning the gift card. Also, we wanted everyone to know that we are doing an Instagram giveaway in the next week or two, and this will be a giveaway international as well. So I would like everyone to please check out our Instagram website, follow us. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm old, so that whole website thing doesn't make any sense. Please check out our Instagram. It's the American Begonia Society. Follow us and you will be able to find information on how to join the Instagram giveaway that we have in the next week or two. All right, Jorge, are you ready for questions, or do you need me to babble a little bit more?
No, I'm fine. I try to collect everyone's questions and just kind of, group them by theme. I am going to skip the questions that I feel got answered during the talk. So I'll just focus on the ones that weren't. So to start with, I realize that I'm probably going to be asking the equivalent of picking your favorite child, but people were curious as to, for Darren and Don and Ryan, if you could, if you had a favorite of your hybrids that you could tell us what, if you could tell us what that is.
Favorite hybrids?
Favorite?
Yep.
What's your favorite?
Okay, my favorite, well, I've got a lot of favorites. But one of them is probably the first one we introduced, which is Starry Night. And then I would have to probably add the two micro minis, Mini Melbourne and Dancing Vera. And these two here. And I hope to eventually get some more micro minis using miniature begonias species.
Don, while you're there, people were curious about the age of the seedlings you have there. Can you tell us how old the seedlings of those are?
The small plants.
Yeah, the dancing Vera. They were asking about how old it was.
Okay, the stock plants. These are in 10-inch hanging baskets, and I believe this is the date right here that they were potted, 11/19/19. So that's, a couple of years old. This one is maybe a year and a half old. Of course, this is growing in a greenhouse where they're constantly fed, pretty much ideal conditions. So they would grow a lot slower in the house or where someone else may be growing them.
Okay, my favorite's got to be right now, from what I've shown you guys, is Phantom. It's just the colors are spectacular on it. It's probably the best one that I've produced so far, as far as a begonia for production. I guess if I had to do a secondary one, it would probably be Titan. Just because never seen a plant with such huge leaves before. So that's probably would be my top two. And what's that? Titan? Titan.
It's down here.
With very small leaves right now. They're usually about like that. And then Ryan's brought his over.
And this one has no name, but just on the leaf structure and the flowers, this is my favorite out of the group of seedlings that I've got going now. So no name yet, but this is the one that I've got my eye on. I think that's Don's favorite as well. So
Yellow Mo.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. The next question is related to selecting and culling your seedlings. I think Darren touched on it a little bit, but folks ask specifically like how old the seedlings need to get before you can start evaluating if it's worth keeping. And then they also wanted to know what happens to anything that you decide not to keep.
Well, the culling process is immediate. I mean, from the get-go, as they, like I was saying, as they start off, if they're super puny, I mean, you're going to end up with a pot. I end up with a 4-inch pot that has thousands of plants in it, and they start growing up, and we start having to separate them right there. Not all of those plants that were in that 4-inch pot even make it to cell trays, so. You just start selecting the largest seedlings out, putting those into cell trays. And then when you run out of space, the rest of them go in the compost. And then as they get older and you've decided you want to keep this one and this one's just really not doing it for you, it goes into compost. You don't really want to put anything that's not worthy out. It causes a lot of confusion. People don't know what it is. It doesn't have a name. It gets called other things that it's not. And I would have to say you can start culling immediately all the way up to the day that you end up with however many you want to keep. So that's my, Don, you got anything to add to that?
Well, I would say, well, agree with Darren, and also, actually, these seedlings can change even after they're a year old. They can change as they get to be 2 years old. So if you've got something that looks interesting, it's a good idea to keep it for maybe 2 or maybe even 3 years, just to watch what it does, in the different, in the heat of the summer or when the cooler periods in winter. So, it could be immediately or anywhere from 2 or 3 years.
I'd like to add that a number of our hybrids of Don's and Darren's hybrids have been trialed for years, especially Don's, and they're trialing Darren's now, I believe. And they're going to be released internationally under other names, but we are licensing some of these out. So I'll just mention that as well.
Thank you for that. There was a question also about on average, how many crosses? How many seedlings do you see get selected from a single cross?
Oh, that's all dependent. Like I said before, with like this cross here, there was only 4 or 5 seedlings that even they germinated, so the germination rate was really bad. With some others, like the one that Phantom and came out of, there were thousands. So it's just one of those things. Like again, a lot of I guess the reason you have to start culling is as they get bigger, you're running out of space. So let's say you have this much. Steve gave me X amount of room to work with, and when they were all very small, they all fit in a flat, and then as they get bigger, they start eating up the bench space. And then there comes a time where they need more room. So you have to make some hard decisions right off the bat, whether or not, because it all boils down to your space. But as far as seedlings go, it's, you could get anywhere from 3 or 4 to thousands of seedlings from a single pollination. Don?
I think that pretty much sums it up. You can get 1 or 2 or thousands.
I have something to add to that. So what you guys saw over there is everything that germinated from both of my 2 crosses. Nothing has been taken out. That's literally everything that germinated. That's just how the cards fell on those 2 crosses. So that also happens too, where we do have the room just because of actually what germinated, and we'll probably end up going through those obviously, but it wasn't anything like some of your crosses where there were millions of stuff that came up.
Okay. There was a question about selection of the male and the female parents and how that plays into how do you pick who's going to be the male and the female parent, and how that plays into the characteristics that you see in the seedlings.
Selecting the male and female parent.
Yeah, and what
really,
impact that has.
I'm sorry.
What's the impact?
Impact.
Yeah, like how is there an impact of like when you're selecting who's going to be the male and the female parent? Do you?
Okay.
How does that impact the characteristics that you see in the seedling?
I don't think there's really much of a difference whether one is the male or one is the female as far as the cross.
Yeah, they're both giving 50% of genetics, so in genetic wise, it shouldn't make a difference, if which one's the male and which one's the female. They're both going to get genetics 50% from each parent. So it shouldn't make a difference which one's what, I would assume. As far as why a lot of times we select one of them to be the male and one of them to be the female, it happens to do with which one's got a male flower open versus which one's got a female flower open. Because y'all probably know a lot of times these plants will bloom the male flowers first and then with female flowers. And so sometimes you got all these female flowers and you're scrambling around the greenhouse trying to find a plant that has male flower in it.
Along those lines, there's a question that came in just recently about whether or not you store pollen and how you go about actually doing the pollination.
Pollination. Here we go. So whenever you're in a greenhouse like this and you have the ability and have the availability of stuff, you can just actually, you grab your male flower and we just run over and go to our female flower and actually just pollinate it. Then of course you tag it and bag it. But you can save pollen. You'll need to remove all of the petals and everything, and you can save it and dry it out and save it in vials so that you can use it, keep it refrigerated. But other than that, I mean, that's as simple as the process is. You do want to make sure that the male flower has been open for a while and the pollen is dry on it so that it's same way with the female flower. You don't want to pick one that's just opened that morning. It's probably not receptive yet.
Okay, so those are all the questions that I saw that are specifically related to this talk. There is a question probably for Steve about international shipping and if that's something that's in the works.
We do not ship internationally. The reason for that is because of the phytosanitary laws. We have in the U.S. we have lots of demand for our product and limited production. Maybe someday we'll do that, but just all the hoops the government puts there to try to ship something out. It's also very expensive for the phytosanitary certificate. So it's just the governmental logistics of trying to do that really keep us from doing it. Did anyone else have anything to add to that?
No, I mean, that's about it. It's the
Whether the plant arrives alive too,
Yeah.
with all the inspections and everything.
exactly. They have to come out here every time and inspect every plant and then issue the certificate. And for every certificate issued, there's a fee for it. And it's just like he was saying right now, with all of the production that we have, and we're not even able to produce enough plants for the, what people want here in the States. It's really hard to get that justification to bring someone in to do all that stuff right now.
Okay. Another question that did come in regarding the hybrids is, what other parents do you use for the minis other than, and I'm going to butcher this, the Bulata? Is there other parents that you use for the minis?
Right now, the only really parent I've used for the minis is Boweri variety Nigra Marga. And but there are some other miniatures that would make good parents. Philip, well, let's see. I believe it's an Indonesian species, Ionophylla. And there's a few others that could be used, but right now I've just used the Boweri Nigra Marga.
Okay. Let's see. One last question that came in. I'm not sure if you'll have an answer or not, but people are wondering what other projects do you have in the works, and if there's any other sneak peeks that we can see now.
Sneak peeks.
Sneak peeks. I think they kind of shown you the yellows, these guys right here as far as sneak peeks go. There are a few more of my hybrids back there that are actually being trialed by Ball that have not been released yet, but they will probably start releasing them shortly. So there's several others of those back there that y'all just didn't see. But, I don't know. I haven't been here in a while, so I really don't even know where they are to show you.
Okay. Any tips that you have for anybody that's interested in hybridizing begonias? Like anything you wish you knew before you started out?
Any issues?
tips?
Well, there are several ABS Zoom programs that were on hybridizing. So those would be excellent programs to look at. Also, there are other programs on the internet that show you how to hybridize. So yeah, there's lots of information out there on hybridizing.
Yeah, the main thing is you need to make sure you keep I don't know, if you're doing it indoors, you need to make sure that you have a setup where you can keep the plants very humid. You don't want to just have pots of seedlings sitting on a tray, you know, next to the windowsill. You'll need to have some sort of, you know, top terrarium top type thing to keep the humidity up around them. Also, begonia seeds have to have sunlight to germinate. So you do not want to cover them with anything. They just get sprinkled on top of a very fine seedling mix. And other than that, just the best thing I can tell you is have fun with it, because that's what it is for me. Is it's whenever those little babies start popping up and as they start developing, it's like Christmas every day. You get to go out there and see what's changed and what's different, what's new. But yeah, the main thing to get away with it is to have fun, do what you love and enjoy it.
Okay, one that came in is about whether or not Seedlings makes hybrids with other species other than begonias.
Have you all done any other generic hybrids? I mean, generic hybrids? No, I don't think so. I think it's just all begonias. I came from a background where I did Himmercalis or daylilies, did some hybridizing there. And when I started out, when I was 16, I got into orchids, which I still grow a lot of orchids, and hybridizing those. The only thing is I gave up, because when you're 16 and you find out it's going to take 7 years to see what you just pollinate. First of all, 9 months for the seed pod to develop, and then 7 years to see if you got anything good. It just seemed like so long ago, you know, so far away. Now it's like 7 years, that's nothing. But anyway, yeah. No, I don't think there's any other crosses going on except for the begonias here.
Okay. Well, I'm not seeing a lot of more additional questions. So I think on behalf of everybody in the chat, I want to say thank you. I think everybody really.
He did. I think. I don't know. I don't hear him anymore.
All right, guys, thank you very much, Steve Sleeves. I can't express to you how appreciative the American Begonia Society and the Virtual Education Committee is for everything you have done for us and for donating the gift card for this presentation. As we wrap up today's program, please make sure to save the date for March 20th for Johanna Zinn's presentation on terrarium basics. Thank you to all of you who have participated in today's program. And remember, to help future programming, please consider donating to the American Begonia website, begonias.org, ABS educational program. And I hope to see you all soon. Thank you very much, guys.